You're coming in the top job at a very critical time when this IPO market we talked about has been quite depressed for the last 2 years, but there's still some signs of hope. Stock market turnover, this bull market that we're seeing coming back here, seems like Hong Kong is gaining a bit of mojo right now. Can you tell us what your priorities are going to be?
Yes, absolutely. So today is actually, I'm in my 11th week as the CEO of HKEX, very proud to be taking this role. I issued actually a blog a few weeks ago, and I give it a title, Redefining Resilience. I think, as you know, there are so many changes happening around us. I call them the four changing global orders, right? Geopolitically, as you alluded to, we are also seeing a lot of different ways people are raising capital, so capital formation is changing. On the technology front, obviously we're seeing a lot of exciting technology coming to disrupt, the old ways that we're doing things. And last but not the least, just the way financial markets are arranging themselves are very different from at least, the time when I started my career. So amidst all this, I think what we want to focus on at HKEX is really, first of all, to play to our China strength, really build on it. I think that's our trump card, definitely. And then surrounding it, really three strategic imperatives that we are very focused on. The first one being our efforts to continue building the market vibrancy and to create that network effect. What that entails is really to bring more issuers, more investors, and more products into the ecosystem.
You mentioned about that. Your predecessor, Nicolas Aguzin, talked about this great IPO pipeline that was coming.
Yes.
When do you think this will finally materialize?
Yes, I think, well, first of all, as you probably know, only a few weeks ago on the 19th of April, the CSRC issued 5 measures which will provide a lot of support to our capital markets, 3 of which are very closely related to the Stock Connect, including a relaxation of the ETF eligibility standards, inclusion of REITs into the Connect franchise, as well as the southbound RMB counter inclusion into the Stock Connect. Also, there is a very exciting one, which is the 5th one, which is to bring high quality, top-notch companies from the mainland to come and list in our market. I think all that is creating a lot of excitement, and I will share with you that actually since the announcement of those 5 measures, we have received so many calls, you wouldn't believe, from potential issuers really wanting to explore doing an IPO in our market. So that's going to add onto the already quite robust pipeline.
Okay.
Now, in terms of when
any IPOs been lined up since those measures come through?
Well, we have the 100 companies or applicants in the pipeline already, and I think with the latest measure and really that excitement and a lot of proactiveness in terms of reaching out to us, I can really only see that building up. So for us, obviously we need the market conditions to also be a lot more conducive to getting the IPOs done, but I think what we've seen lately, especially the last 2 weeks of April, is giving us a lot of hope.
Yeah. When they mentioned the Beijing that they will support leading industry names, what is your interpretation of that? Are we going to get these blockbuster names coming back here in the city?
So my interpretation, first of all, in terms of sector, what we can do really to complement the domestic exchanges in the mainland is to focus on the new economy. That's what we have done very well since 2018. And as you know, we have issued a new chapter in our listing rules, Chapter 18C, which focused on what we call specialist technology. And these are really the sectors I think investors are most interested in at this juncture, including things like artificial intelligence, new energy, new materials, quantum computing. And so while I really want to sort of see more names coming, and I don't know whether they are only confined to this space, I have a feeling that a lot of them will be in the specialist technology space.
Okay. Does that include the likes of Ant Financial, Didi? I mean, these are names I know everyone that's watching right now.
I'm not able to share specific names.
Right.
I truly believe that given how much growth we're still seeing coming out from the mainland, this is going to really give us a very interesting batch of new IPOs.
What's that risk, though, of still some of these Chinese companies bypassing Hong Kong and just listing domestically?
Yeah, I think we need to really think about our strength as a capital raising platform. We have, of course, over time demonstrated our ability to support mega IPOs, right? Tens and 20, 30 plus billion US dollars have been raised successfully in our market. So, and our trump card is really the Connect franchise, right? We have to remember that HKEX is the only platform which, if you get a listing, on our exchange, you have access not only to international money, right? Yeah. You also have that unique opportunity to tap into the very vast number of investors on the mainland through our Connect franchise, right? So that's our USP. That's our unique selling point.
You mentioned 20, 30 billion, these sort of old capital raising targets or numbers that you've had. I mean, it seems like we're far off that now. Yeah. I mean, 2023 was the worst in 20 years. This quarter alone, we've only seen less than $1 billion capital raised. Right. So how confident are you that we're going to get back to those glory days?
Okay, so I think the fact that the fundraising, which took place last year, for example, was not as high at as high a level, I think is a reflection of really the macro conditions, as well as the fact that interest rate environment, it's not particularly conducive.
Out of your control.
Yeah. And if you're a business owner, right, and you see the valuation, you always feel that you can fetch a higher valuation for your company. So I don't think that's a structural problem. I really think that that's just a reflection of market conditions. And when things get better and interest rates should come down, I really think that we will be seeing a lot bigger IPOs coming back into our market.
Apart from IPOs, dual listings of A shares. How big of an opportunity is that for Hong Kong Exchange as well? We just learned that Medea is also refiling its application here in Hong Kong.
Yes. So on the 12th of April, the State Council also issued what is called the New 9 measures, which is very focused on improving the A-share market. And if you read it, there are a few measures talking about raising the eligibility requirements, accelerating delisting on the A-share market, etc. So I think it's a good thing that they are continuously making improvement to the A-share market, but at the same time, the fundraising needs of a lot of these companies which are listed on the A-share market, is still very real, right? So I think what I see is really a big set of opportunities for us in Hong Kong to provide that alternative fundraising channel for these companies which are continuing their development of the business. So hopefully we're going to also see a pickup of these A-share listed company exploring an H-share listing, which will add to their fundraising capabilities.
Hong Kong Exchange has also vowed to bring in more international sort of names here, but lately we've heard the likes of L'Occitane, Samsonite may have plans to delist it. There seems to be a perception out there, Bonnie, that Hong Kong no longer is that destination for liquidity. How do you at least reverse that sort of?
Okay. So first of all, in terms of the privatization activities that we've seen, it's I think quite common to see, when the valuations are at a lower level. But that's again not a structural problem. It's just sort of how companies choose to manage their capital raising and all that. Now, I would say that the liquidity is definitely something that we are very focused in terms of working on. And I also am very hopeful because, well, going back to my point about the volume, that we've seen in the last 2 weeks of April, right? It doesn't take a lot. It can come back very quickly. So I think, looking at our fundamentals, I don't think we've changed. We are still a very compelling location for capital to meet opportunities, right, for investors to deploy their capital, and also for international company. I go back to this point about the possibility of stock connect inclusion. This is unique, right? So I guess as the Chinese economy continue to recover and get stronger, as mainland investors continue to want to diversify ways that they invest their capital, their money, the opportunities for international companies seeking to fundraise in Hong Kong is immense.
I want to talk a little bit more about, obviously, the Saudi event and what you're doing here this today as well. I mean, obviously, what is the international strategy right now? I mean, your predecessor also was all about opening offices abroad. What's your move going to be?
Okay, so why don't we focus on this event, which we were very excited about. So last February, we signed an MOU with Saudi Tadawul Group. And after that, we've done a few things. We have recognized Saudi as a recognized stock exchange, meaning that company listed on the exchange can come to Hong Kong for a secondary listing. We've also now listed the first Saudi ETF, which is the biggest ever in the world and the first in Asia. And we also held FII priority last December. Now, this very exciting CMF, apparently 1,000 people have signed up. We have only seats for 500 and they will be filled very quickly. There will also be 300 plus bilateral meetings. What we're doing is matchmaking, which I think it's a really good step to foster relationship, powering connections, which is the theme of this event. But more importantly, with those connections being forged, it's just a matter of time that we're going to see both Saudi companies listing on our exchange and vice versa.
Saudi Aramco certainly is the one that everyone wants to talk about. That's all the buzz, the second listing, where they're going to be listing. What are conversations like now? Can you give us any sort of good news? And what can Hong Kong Exchange do next?
Okay. I think all I can tell you is that the dialogue is very alive, not only for specific names, but really generally. And like I said earlier, right, this is the occasion where we continue to matchmake, continue to power connections, and
so you see other Gulf companies listing here as well. Is that a potential?
Oh, that's definitely the objective of building this relationship, right? It will take time, right? But again, with an event like this, and with so many parties participating, both on the investor side as well as the corporate side, I'm really hopeful that it's just a matter of time that we're going to see our efforts bear fruits.